Starting at the very top of every page is a header. Now, if I hover my mouse, we can see an indicator here marking the lines of our header. And if I scroll down to the very bottom of our page, we have our footer marked similarly, making up the other half of this sandwich. The header and footer remain consistent on every page of your site. So if you make changes to it on this page, those changes will show up on every page. This also goes true for widgets. So any widgets that you add to the header or footer will function site-wide, which is good to keep in mind, and it could be a nice time saver for certain things like SEO widgets and social media links. Now, for any particular page that you do not want your header to show, simply hover your mouse over like so, and then we'll click on this header prompt to bring up this little drop-down menu. And right here we have an option to hide our header. You've got the specific devices here that you can select, and if we give a click to hide on desktop, our header disappears like so. And then if you decide later that you want to bring it back, no problem at all. Take notice of this little eyeball icon here on the left panel and give that a click. And you'll see the header partially return. Just give one more click on this icon here, and you're then prompted with an option to unhide. Same goes for the footer. Hover your mouse over the footer, and then click on footer, and we're then prompted with a settings panel for the footer as a whole, the top of which has this toggle option here if you want to hide the footer on this page. One more note I'll make about headers. Let's click back into that drop down up here, and let's click on Edit Design. We've got a dense list of settings here allowing you to style up this header any which way that you want. This layout selection here is pretty awesome. If you want to change the structure of it entirely, just select a new one. And in just a flash, it's updated in the builder, ready for you to customize further. Scrolling down a bit, you've got tons of color settings, shadows, borders, and all kinds of good stuff, followed by a section for a shrinking header. Let's expand this. And we can see here it's enabled by default. As we start at the top of the page and we scroll down a little bit, we can see the logo and the height of the header shrinks ever so slightly, which looks nice aesthetically and also provides a tad more viewing room for the page's body content. You can customize the intensity of this shrink by configuring the logo shrink size here, followed by your spacing settings for the header here at the bottom. Finally, sitting as the meat of our web page sandwich are the rows and the columns. Now, the next couple videos are going to cover rows and columns in much more thorough detail because, like I mentioned, this is fundamental to how all of the pages are configured here in the builder and definitely makes for easier customization once you've got this part down. As I scroll down the page here, we're looking at a collection of rows stacked one on top of another. You can almost think of the rows like little houses, encasing a selection of content within each. As I hover my mouse, we can see the blue outlines of how much space each row takes up, and we even have a clickable prompt here on the top left to expand a myriad of settings for each row that we're going to cover in the subsequent videos. Now, sitting inside each row are columns, sometimes two, sometimes more, and you can think of these like the little rooms inside of each house. The columns are what enable you to house content side by side within each row with full spacing and design control with each.